Yeah.
Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar on career options in law. We are privileged to have P. Malhotra ji among us, who is a retired law secretary from Ministry of Law and Justice, and sir got 40 years of experience in law. Sir is also postgraduate in political science and law. Before I hand over to Dean sir to say a few words for P. Malhotra ji, I would like to briefly state that what the today's webinar we are going to discuss. I'll start with saying that we consider law practice as a noble profession. We don't call it a business, but we call it a profession. Why we call it a profession? Because the end result with a lawyer seeks is basically a service of a man, common man. And in today's complex global world, there is no dearth of opportunities for a lawyer who wants to practice in a corporate side. And on the other hand, if we see the complex lifestyle in today's modern world, we see there are so many complexities faced by a common man as well, and which needs to be dealt with in sensitive manner. And a lawyer who is willing to serve a common man can serve a common man through legal aid. Hence, briefly we can state there is a lot of things which a lawyer can help do and improve the society we live in at present. With these words, I'll hand over it to Dean sir. Sir, please over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lipika. It is our pleasure to welcome Shri P.K. Malhotra ji in this webinar on career opportunity in law. Professor P.K. Malhotra is a distinguished professor with the School of Law, and he is always ready with our with his kind support in whatever way we seek. And in after this online classes, a lot of webinars are happening all around. So the School of Law also, in its series of webinars, is conducting very useful webinars. So we started with Justice Deepak Mishra's webinar on access to justice, and this is second webinar regarding career options in law. This webinar we have kept for majorly final year and fourth year residents, so that they can understand that what avenues they can look for after completion of their course. Traditionally, legal profession was offering practicing as one of the main option, but since last maybe 30 years, after 5 years, law schools were set up. Now many opportunities have come up. The after traditionally practicing one of the option, second option came was corporate law firms. Then last 2 decades, another option came that was of LPO and KPOs. So I have seen many of my students, they are working in LPOs and KPOs, and some of them are doing extremely well. Few days back, I met a student of mine. He is working in a LPO in Noida, and there are 2,000 people working under him, and he is making a very good handsome amount. So this is also one of the new sector which is coming up, and after this COVID-19, I am certain that India will emerge as one of the hub of LPO and KPOs. And with our English speaking students, they are comfortable working late nights also. So I'm sure this will emerge as one of the sought after option. Then we have many new areas emerging with insolvency and bankruptcy court, with arbitration, mediation, and conciliation. Many students are joining these sectors also. And Mr. P.K. Malhotra is a leading legal luminary in the field of arbitration, conciliation, and mediation. He is half of the time traveling to Mumbai and many other places, conducting this ADRs. So our residents can seek his help regarding ADR mechanisms also. And I am sure after this webinar, all of us will come to know emerging areas where our law students can comfortably place and they can train themselves. So with these words, I will again welcome Shri P.K. Malhotra ji in this webinar, and we are thankful that he is sparing his valuable time and guiding all of us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Pradeep, for inviting me to this webinar, and thank you, Professor Lipika, for your introductory remarks. I think distinguished participants will be interested in knowing about the career option in law, which is the topic fixed for today's webinar. And I'm happy to see the response which the Sharda University has got for the webinar. I think, Professor Pradeep, you have made my job very easy by your introductory remarks. And what I'm supposed to say, you have already summarized it. And Deepika also has said in her opening remarks that it is a noble profession. And why it is called noble profession? Because while earning your livelihood in the profession of law, you also serve the society at large. And I think that is the beauty of this profession. Law offers you an opportunity to develop a range of skills and explore many aspects of human life. It gives, I think, it's an opportunity to every individual to sharpen his mind, deepen his understanding, and deepen his experience across full range of humanities, that is the political science, social sciences, and other areas. And by law degree, you can not only become a successful professional practicing law or working as a judge or as a legal advisor, but it also gives you a very good opportunity to have better understanding of the society and to become a successful politician, a successful manager, a successful journalist, a successful diplomat, or maybe a successful police officer, and also a successful civil servant. And since the law degree in law enhances your intellectual strength with a practical approach toward, you may be, knowing that roughly as on today, there are about 1,600 law colleges, universities or institutes which are imparting education in law, not necessarily LLB degree, but diploma courses, certificate courses, postgraduate degree, doctorate degree. And as Professor Kulshrestha has mentioned in his remarks, the second generation reforms in the field of law, which took place with the opening of national law schools, the first one being in 1987 at Bangalore with the name of National Law University. I think it has changed the total scenario in the field of law and opened up many areas for the practitioners to work in the field of law. Now, talking of the career options, once you pass your law degree, maybe you have option of going for master's degree in law, and enhance your legal skills. But so far as the career options are concerned, and if you have to enlist them, I think the best opportunity which has come to the people who are passing out law degree is the joining the law firm or working as a corporate counsel. There are people who join litigation, who add on the bench, who add on the bar, but at the same time, there are many who go to the other areas working as associate, research associate, law research associates in the law firm, and working as legal advisors in the PSUs and other public sector undertakings, as well as in the private sector. Now, publishing house or the media is another area where I find many of the law graduates have made their career working as legal editor, and you might be reading many legal articles being published in the papers. Now, teaching is another area, I think, because the college is coming up, we need good teachers who can really impart good legal education to the students. And with number of colleges which I've said, which is 1,600 plus in our country, private teaching is a very good option, for which after law degree, you have to do master's degree, or you have to take a PhD degree, or to qualify an exam conducted by the University Grant Commission. Now, I personally feel that we should not look at law as a means of making money only. Yes, if you establish yourself in the practice of law, I think sky is the limit as your earning is concerned. But everybody cannot reach that level. So you should not look at law only as a means of making money, but you should look at the law as an instrument for securing social justice to the people. And if you really want to fight for the right of the downtrodden and I may say 80% of the population in our country is either at the subsistence or poverty line, and probably they are not aware about their legal rights. It is the profession of law which has to protect their legal rights, and as our constitution says, justice, social, economic, and political. And if you have to look for justice, social, economic, and political, that is possible only if you are a practitioner who is concerned about the society and not only about your livelihood. It definitely gives you a source of livelihood, but at the same time, the larger interest is to serve the society. That is, you earn from those who can pay and you serve the society, even those who cannot pay, but you protect their rights. Now, talking of the areas of other areas where you can practice, if and as I said, politics is definitely one area where lawyers have contributed a lot. Even today also, you will find in most of the parliamentary debate, it is the lawyer politicians who are on the forefront. And to just name a few, in the recent past, I'm not going into the back of it, but in the recent past, take for example, late Arun Jaitley. When he used to speak in the House, I think he used to bring out all the legal points very nicely before the House. Now, advocates like K. Parasaran, P. Chidambaram, Soli Sorabji, Riman, MC Setalvad, Kapil Sibal, and many others like Ashok Sen, Ram Jethmalani, Salman Khurshid, they have all made their career in the law, some extent helped in developing the constitutional law in the country. Now, not only that, if you talk about the India's freedom struggle, you will find that most of the leaders on the forefront were from the field of law. And if I have to name few of them, Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, C. Rajgopalachari, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal, Bhula Bhai Desai, C.R. Das, Sardar Patel, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Madan Mohan Malviya. Some of them who definitely contributed a lot in the freedom struggle, and the profession of law helped them to formulate the policy as well as the Constitution of India. So with this background, I say joining a law course is a privilege. Gone are the days. I remember during my I joined law, there were three categories of the people who were joining law. One, who wanted to pursue law as a career. Second, that he belongs to a lawyer family, and therefore, because there are lawyers in his family, he wants to continue with the field of law. And the third category was because somebody has not got admission anywhere else and he wants to pursue some higher studies. Therefore, after graduation, he will join a law course. This third category of people who used to join law degree is now eliminated with the people coming with a commitment either to serve the society or to join the profession of law for a noble cause or as a. Now, as on today, there are abundant opportunities available to law graduates. As I said, in addition to practicing in the court, working in the corporate law firms, government departments, becoming a judge, a public prosecutor, social worker, or a politician. And I have already listed many other categories. Now, if you want to serve the government also, there is a separate category with the name Indian Legal Service, a cadre to which I also belong. Like IAS, you have Indian Legal Service also within the Government of India, and the recruitment to the Indian Legal Service is made from amongst the law graduates having about 7-year experience in the field of law, and they are appointed in the Ministry of Law and Justice as Assistant Legal Advisor, Deputy Legal Advisor, Additional Legal Advisor, and they can rise up to the post of Law Secretary to the Government of India. And their main job is to handle all government litigation in the courts through government counsels, advise all government departments in matters, to finalize the bills which are introduced in the parliament. I think that is one of the most important job which officers of the Indian legal service do. Not necessarily those who are not interested in litigation, probably they can join as a bank officer also, they can join civil services also, they can go to the public sector undertaking or to the private sector and work as in-house counsel. And job of in-house counsels in almost in all the private sector companies as well as the public sector company is a very important job, because he works as a link between the company as well as the counsel who are handling their legal matters and litigation in the courts. He is also responsible for finalizing of documents, contracts, agreements, other things, other legal documents for the company. And as a link between the company and the counsel, he also advises the company as to which are the matters which should be agitated and what are the matters which should not be agitated, and how the contracts should be drafted so that the interest of the company is protected, as well as all the legal parameters are complied with. Another opportunity which is available is if you want to join as a judge. I think it is again because advocate as well as judges both are same, two sides of the same coin. While judges decides the cases sitting on the court, advocates assist them and explain to them the legal position and its applicable to the facts of the case, so that the judge can arrive as a logical conclusion and give a judgment in accordance with the law. And one area is that you can be appointed after your law degree if you are practicing as a government counsel, protecting the interest of the government counsel, or you can be appointed as a public prosecutor to handle criminal matters in the court, right from the lowest court to the highest court. So opportunities are many, fields are many, and as I said, law firms in another area. And after the 1987, when this national law schools came into existence, I think the law firms have prospered on the basis of the training which the students have got in the national law universities, or introduction of the 5-year course. Many universities are now teaching 5-year course. Now, having talked about the opportunities available, now I would definitely like to brief the participants about how to pursue a law degree. If you have to pursue a law degree, you have two options. One is, which has become now more popular, is that after completing your schooling, that is 12th class examination, you join a 5-year combined law course, which will lead to a degree of BA LLB or BCom LLB or BBA LLB or SC LLB. These are the options in 5-year course. It will be an integrated degree which will give you a graduation course as well as a law degree, and this is a 5-year course. But those who want to pursue it after a normal graduation, maybe you have done your graduation in commerce, you have done your Bachelor of Arts degree or some other course, then probably you can join a 3-year course. And this 3-year course, which was prevalent prior to 1987, when this National Law University concept was introduced, there were 3-year degree courses which were throughout the country. Remember that all these degrees must be recognized by the Bar Council of India, which is a statutory body constituted under an Act of Parliament, that is the advocate. This statutory bodies lay down the norms as to what kind of courses are to be taught before a degree can be recognized by the Bar Council of India. And if the courses which are mandated by the Bar Council of India are not taught in the college or the university, that law degree will not be recognized by the Bar Council of India. So therefore, you have to be sure once you are taking an admission into a law college to ensure that the college or the university where you are pursuing your law degree is recognized by the Bar Council of India, so that you may not face any difficulty later on. Because there are many colleges which are mushroom, which are giving law degree, which is not recognized by the Bar Council of India. In such circumstances, if you take such a degree, maybe you get some knowledge about law, but you won't be able to practice as an advocate before court of law. So you have to be very sure that the degree which you are pursuing is recognized by the Bar Council of India, so that you have right to practice. And even before getting this right, you have to qualify. After passing your law degree, you have to qualify an examination conducted by the Bar Council of India, which tests your basic knowledge, the whatever law you have studied in the college. They test your basic knowledge and then allow you to practice in any court throughout the territory of India. Now, talking of the 5-year law course, which started 1987 onward, if you want to take admission in a 5-year law course, you have to qualify either the All India Law Entrance Examination for admission to 23 national law universities which have been created by the acts of the state government and are known as law university. Thereafter, there are government colleges, there are universities, there are private universities like Sharda University, which is conducting 5-year law degree course. They conduct either their own examination, or they see your ranking either in the CLAT examination, combined law admission test examination, or the examination conducted by All India Law Entrance Exam of the National Law University, or some other law school conducting their own examination. Based on your performance and based on your protected by that particular law college, you can get admission. I'm sorry, I interrupted between, so that was a small interruption. But those who are really serious about joining the profession, for them, I think 5-year course is the best option to be followed. And most of the universities and law colleges are nowadays giving you an opportunity to pursue 5-year law course. The advantage of joining 5-year law course as on today, as compared to the earlier period, is that it gives you exposure by holding moot court, by arranging your visit to the court so that you can see the functioning of the court, visit to the parliament or the state legislative assemblies as to how the assembly is working, holding votes, and running legal aid clinics. All these facilities are provided, and all those colleges and universities who are running 5-year courses, they give you an opportunity and exposure to all these areas, so that from day one, a person who has got a law degree under a 5-year course can stand up on his legs and can argue a case immediately. Not necessary that from day one you can possibly argue a case, because after getting law degree, it is always better to get some kind of training and exposure under a senior who has been practicing in the court, or some training, or as a research associate, or as an intern, either in a law firm or with a senior, or working with a judge. I think all these opportunities are available nowadays to the students, so that once they get their law degree and they qualify the exam, they can practice law the way they want to continue with the profession. Now, with this background, let me share with you, I think the times have changed, and the kind of exposure which you get with the kind of teaching which these universities give, they definitely make you a better lawyer as compared to under a 3-year degree course. Because in the 3-year degree course, the only problem is the kind of exposure which you get, or opportunity which you get going to the courts, participating in moot court, participating in parliamentary proceedings, holding participating in Lok Adalat or holding legal aid training, this kind of facilities are generally not available in 3-year courses. And nowadays, there are very few universities who are imparting you 3-year legal education. Of course, some of the universities, prestigious universities, are still continuing with 3-year course like Delhi University, Mumbai University, Symbiosis, Pune, OP Jindal, Banaras Hindu University. They are all imparting 3-year law degree also. But I think by and large, most of the universities have now shifted to a 5-year law course, which makes you a better lawyer and give you a better exposure for becoming a good practitioner. Now, and so far as the earning is concerned, I think there can't be a better profession than the profession of law. But only thing is, you can't start earning from day one. Yes, there are students who take heavy loan for pursuing their legal education. If they haven't taken loan, maybe then what they do, normally they join a law firm where from day one they start earning, and which help them in repaying their loan and discharge their other liabilities. But having said so, I think litigation is one area which should be pursued by lawyers, and in litigation, new avenues are coming every day. As Professor Kulshrestha has also mentioned in his opening remarks, cyber law is one area which is upcoming and daily new developments are taking place. In addition to cyber law, you have IPR, intellectual property rights. I think that is another area where you can practice. Corporate law is another area where you can practice and make good money. And now, keeping in view the large pendency in the courts, the government of India is promoting ADR, alternate dispute resolution, in a big way. And for that, provision have also been made in the law, whereby courts also promote ADR, that is alternate dispute resolution, in which you go for arbitration, you go for mediation, you go for conciliation, you take the advantage of Lok Adalat and try to settle the disputes amicably so that the matter finally rests and there is no scope for further appeal also. I think with this kind of developments which are taking place, litigation itself opens up a very wide area and we don't have many experts. Only thing is, what profession needs is a full dedication to the profession. You can't work half-heartedly and reach the top. If you really want to succeed, like people, Vali Nariman, Nani Palkiwala, Seetal Wad, or Soli Sorabji, or Ram Jethmalani, or Mr. K. Parasaran, or K.K. Venugopal, these people have succeeded in the profession of law. It is a devotion, it is a dedication which have brought success. You have to create an environment whereby people should say that we want our case to be handled by this legal professional or by this advocate. And for that, your conduct, your ethics, your professional ethics are more important. If you are maintaining a professional ethics and devoted to the profession, I think sky is the limit and there is no end. Probably you can reach the apex level of this. And not only that, after practicing the law for a number of years, I think adorning the bench, maybe in High Court and Supreme Court, is a very good option for the successful lawyer, because if you have earned a good amount, say in 15, 20 years of your practice as a law, and you have earned sufficiently well, I think that is the time when you should serve the society by becoming a judge and deliver justice in accordance with the provision of the Constitution. My dear friends, we are living in a society where, as I said in my opening remarks, that number of people who are marginally, who are at the margin or living below poverty line in our country is too large. Their rights, their liberty, and their livelihood is to be protected so that they are not socially exploited by the people who are well off in the society. As I said in the beginning itself, the preamble itself says of justice to all. Justice to all. What justice? social, economic, and political. This justice, social, political, economical, for all people can be ensured only by the people in the legal profession. Only in the legal profession. I think time has come when more and more people are opting for the profession of law, and it is a necessity that they should discharge their duty as per provision of the Constitution. All those who are opting for career in law, I think they are not having a good opportunity only for their livelihood, but also they will be serving the society at large. Take, for example, the latest example of this coronavirus, which has spread throughout the world, and we are still, this is a unseen enemy, and probably the scenario even in the legal practice is going to change. Like today, instead of holding seminars, shifted to the technology and we are doing webinars. Every day I participate in 1 or 2 webinars, sharing my thoughts, my views on many legal issues. Times are going to change. New problems are likely to come. New avenues will be opened. And I think those who will be opting for the profession of law will not only be earning their livelihood, but will also be helping the society, the people at the lower level of the society, as well as for the economic and social upliftment of the society. I think this was a good opportunity for me also to share my thoughts, participants, as to why they should opt law as their career, because it helps you to become a good citizen, it helps you to become a good human being, and at the same time earn a good livelihood. Professor Pradeep, thank you very much for offering me this opportunity and sharing my thoughts with all of you on this important topic. And I'm sure many of the participants will be having certain questions. I'm open to the questions in case they want to ask any questions. They are open, but I hope somebody will be coordinating it. Maybe Latika or yourself, you can coordinate so that you
Sir,
can.
I'll be coordinating.
Okay, 2 or 3 questions can be asked together, and I will try to respond to them quickly.
Sure, sir. I'll request all the participants to kindly write down their questions in our chat. If required, we'll unmute them and they can directly ask the questions.
Sir, I must thank you for such a comprehensive view on career opportunities. You have not left any area untouched, and it was very, very useful. And I'm sure with around 140 plus participants in this webinar, they will get an inside view of the legal profession. And I'm very confident because I am seeing since last 25 years, this profession is growing leaps and bounds. And as India becomes economically more prosperous, people will get educated. They will certainly come to courts to affirm their rights. And if any violation takes place, they will certainly come for redressal. So as society becomes more educated, more affluent, legal profession will keep rising further. And I'm sure when we were doing law, law was not seen as a good profession. It was not chosen profession because engineering and medicines were chosen profession. Now law has toppled many chosen professions, and youngsters are doing very well. They are committed and they are participating in many activities, and they are developing their personality 360 degree. And I'm sure the bright future of this career is about to come. Best is yet to come. And with
Sir,
the one which you mentioned, the commercial multinational companies which are coming up, probably they also need good lawyers who have got good exposure, not only in the Indian law, but in the international law also. I think that's a very good avenue, all those multinational companies, BPOs, LPOs, which are operating in the, probably they also need people from the field of law. And I think that is another opportunity which I forgot to mention. Some questions.
I see some question in chat box.
Sir, there is one question Mr. Harish Kumar has asked. Sir, please put some light on taxation law. Sir, he wants to know in detail about practice in the area of taxation law, or a person wants to specialize in taxation law. What are the openings for him?
Well, area for practice, and because in taxation, I think you have two fields: direct and indirect tax. Most of the indirect taxes now have been subsumed into the GST. I think the two different areas, but giving you a degree in law, either you must have a master degree in taxation. In case some universities are getting it, in case that is not possible, then most of the universities or institutions are giving diploma or postgraduate diploma in taxation. You should develop, and then taxation is definitely a very good field, because in direct taxes, if you are practicing, you not only practice before the income tax authorities, and you go in appeal before the commissioner income tax. After that, you have an area, you go and file your appeal before the appellate tribunal. Then there is a provision for appeal before the High Court as well as the Supreme Court. And in case for indirect taxes also, there is specialized tribunal known as Custom Excise and Gold Control. Now it is known as CSTAT, Service Tax Appellate Tribunal, which deal with all appeals in the indirect taxes matter. So I think this is a very good area. In addition to corporate law, taxation is a separate branch. And today we are living in an age where general practitioners are all welcome. But because so many specialized areas have come, therefore one must try to specialize in one or the other area. It is only once they specialize, I think probably their earning capacity will also increase, and probably in that particular field, they will be able to render a much better service as compared to an ordinary or the general practitioner.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question is by Pratyush, who wants to know what skills and strengths do we need to be a good lawyer?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. You see, it's not that you have studied the law, therefore it makes you a good lawyer. I think good lawyers have many qualities. You see, everybody studies law, but many people succeed in the profession of law and many don't succeed. There are many advocates who are in demand, but there are many who doesn't have even a single brief. What is the difference between the two? If you ask me, I'll say a good lawyer knows where to find out what and how to use it. Where to find out what and how to use it. If you have developed that art, if you have learned that art, probably you can become a successful lawyer. And this comes not only by experience, this also comes by training, the kind of mentoring which you are getting from your seniors. Secondly, you must have good command over the language in which you are arguing your cases. In case you don't have good command over the, probably your communication is affected. And in case your communication skill is not good, you won't be able to make a point which you want to make. Thirdly, you must be true to your profession. You as an advocate is an officer of the court. As an officer of the court, you owe a duty to the court also, in addition to duty to your client. To your client, your duty is that he must get justice as per the facts. And to the court, your duty is that you must place the legal position correctly before the court, so that the judge can take a view in accordance with the law. So what I would say is that there should be a commitment, dedication to your client. You must be true to your client. Never misguide him. Don't dodge him. Because if you want to be a long-term practitioner, then, and if you really want to reach the higher level, probably you have to be very, very honest and true to your profession and have to maintain the professional ethics. Your presentation, your art of advocacy will depend how much knowledge of law you have acquired and how effectively you are able to place it in your pleadings and during the course of argument before the judge. If you have developed that capacity, you can become a very good advocate.
Thank you so much, sir, for your response. Sir, another question is from Namit, who's asking whether COVID-19 has opened up the opportunity in the area of online dispute resolution. What is your
I
view
think
on this and its feasibility?
I think you have raised a very important question, and in fact, I should have discussed about it in my talk also. Yes, you see, so far as use of information communication in the courts is concerned, the government of India has been making efforts for its use for the last 20 years. We know that courts have adopted information and communication technology in many areas. There was a time when for getting a certified copy from the court, you have to apply for it, then have wait for months, then you have to see the list on the notice board, and you will get certified copy after months. Now, you have not to apply for it. Only if you want it for filing an appeal, only then you need a certified copy. Otherwise, you can just go visit the website and download the copy immediately after the judgment is pronounced. Similarly, filing of pleadings. Now it is available. You can file pleadings online. And with COVID-19, now all the courts have started operating the courts through video conferencing. So scenario is definitely changing. I think all of us, in addition to being expert in law, those who want to join the profession of law, have to be very good at the use of technology also, because the day is not far off when most of the proceedings in the courts will be taking. I think it will be done online. Of course, 100% replacement as on today is not possible, because there are many issues with regard to security, with regard to breach of confidentiality. But these issues will be overcome once we start using technology. Already the courts are working online. And so far as the arbitration and conciliation is concerned, I find that most of the arbitration and conciliation proceedings nationally as well as internationally are also happening or already happening online, not after COVID-19, but even before COVID-19 also. So if you are joining a profession of law, please ensure you are also very good at the technology, because the days to come will be the days of the technology, where online dispute resolution in many areas will become a rule rather than an exception.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, another question is from Saeed Rizvi, who wants to know what is the scope of international law? A very broad question.
No, it is again a good question, because so far as international law is concerned, you see, you can't see international law in isolation. Today, we are living in a global village, and in a global village, no society can think of itself of survival independently. For our economic requirement, social requirement, we are all dependent on other countries. Most of our economic requirements are met either through the organizations which have been created by the United Nations, or the kind of supplies or the contracts which we are entering into multinationally with other countries. Even the multinational companies who are operating in our countries, they also are operating throughout the world. So therefore, knowledge of international law is becoming more and more important every day. It is also gaining importance every day. Addition to most of our laws are also, because India becomes party to many international treaties and conventions, and we also enter into many bilateral treaties. So to give effect to them, you have to either amend your municipal law, because unless you amend your municipal law, and if your international obligation is coming in conflict with the municipal law, probably it cannot be enforced. Therefore, there has to be a synchronization in your obligation under international law and the domestic law. And for that purpose, knowledge of international law becomes essential. Now, in addition to being useful in our day-to-day activity in the country, for participating in the international scenario, that is either under the UN organizations or dealing with other countries, I think international knowledge of international law is very important. And for that purpose, you may be knowing that within the Government of India also, there is a separate division with the name of Legal and Treaties Division of the Government of India, which is functioning under the Ministry of External Affairs, which looks after all matters relating to international law pertaining to our country. So I think it's a very good area. And if one wants to practice an international law, maybe he may not get large number of cases, but the quality of cases and the kind of remuneration which he will be getting will be quite good.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Ayush. He wants to know what is the scope of cyber law in today's scenario.
I think this is one of the most upcoming area, and specializing in cyber law, again, as I said, in addition to intellectual property law, cyber law, alternate dispute resolution, these are the three new areas where if somebody is expertising, I think he can get a lot of business. In fact, unfortunately, in our countries, we do not have many people who are expert in the cyber law area. It is monopolized only by few advocates. The scope is good. And because we are still looking into new laws, Information Technology Act was implemented in 2008, where only we wanted to take cognizance of the digital documents, give them to be admitted in evidence. But in 2007, it was amended, 2008, it was amended, and many of the violations of the Information Technology Act were made punishable. Now we are again going for data law, and I think cyber law has got a very good scope for younger generation. And if anybody want to expertise, I think he will have a very good future in cyber law.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Bungali is asking, he enjoys competition law. He is asking, is it a good field to pursue and what are the avenues available?
Yes, I think we are, as I said in my remarks also, we are living in an age of specialization. And in the age of specialization, cyber law is a separate field. I think competition law is also a separate field. But if you want to really specialize in the field of competition law, probably you must have a very good knowledge about the corporate law. And in corporate law, you have to go through the Companies Act. You must look into this provision regarding SEBI. You must look into the provision regarding IBC. Unless you are familiar, you must be aware about the foreign exchange law. You must be aware about the other commercial legislations which have been passed by the parliament and are in operation. Competition law as such may be a good branch, but you must have sound knowledge in corporate laws also, so that because both of them complement and supplement each other.
Thank you, sir. The next question comes from Prakash. He is saying, sir, in your opinion, how can one contribute more to the society? By going for civil services after completing law or by continue in their own field and working for social justice?
See, as you, Litika, you in your opening remarks, you yourself have said that law is a noble profession, and in noble profession, as I said, you earn from those who have the paying capacity, and you serve those who can't pay you. Now, I'll give you just one example. So far as protecting the fundamental rights of the individual is concerned, it is the advocates community who is always on the forefront. And I'll go back to the days of emergency, where Supreme Court gave a judgment that during emergency, you lose your all fundamental rights, including the right under Article 40, right to Article 21, right to life also is gone. But that it was criticized because even the judges admitted that it was given under pressure. And at that time, you maybe remember it of my participants who may not be aware about it, that Fali Nariman was the Attorney General of the Government of India at that time. Because he didn't subscribe to this view, he resigned from his position because he wanted to uphold the dignity of the human beings and the fundamental rights. So whenever you feel any injustice done to the lower strata of the society by those who are, or even by the government, the rights of the individual need to be protected, probably one has to stand up, and for that, by way of interpretation, has opened the door by way of public interest litigation. And advocates, when they find that any injustice is being done, probably they can take up this kind of cause. Then they can go and help in the legal aid clinic. They can go and help to the National Legal Service Authority, State Legal Authority Service, and do some service pro bono for those who cannot defend themselves. I think social justice is one of the major area in the profession of law, and you earn your livelihood at the same time, make people educated about their rights, and in case anybody's rights are violated, make use of the legal framework which has been provided by the parliament to ensure that justice is given to those who cannot approach the.
Thank you, sir. Now, next question is from Harpreet Kaur. I suppose you have already answered her question. She is asking why should one pursue law as a career, and just now you have just explained it. So I'll skip this one and ji sir, please.
No,
sir.
I think Harpreet, probably my whole lecture was on this issue only, as to why we should pursue the profession of law, because
Yes,
as you also said, it's a noble profession. You earn your livelihood, you serve the society at large. The opportunities under the profession of law are much more as on today than what they used to be about 2 decades back, as Professor Shrestha also pointed out in his introductory remarks.
Ji sir. Sir, the next question is from Pratyush. He wants to know, is the role of lawyers essentially the same in all law firms and chambers?
Well, it all depends. It is not necessary, but frankly speaking, if you ask my view, of course, the benefit of this second generation reforms in the field of law have gone most of the time law firms, because most of the students who passed out from these national law universities, they try to join the law firms. Most of them because of the financial constraints or because they have to pay loan. Continue working for a long time in the law firm. I think there is interruption in between. Some interruption
Sorry,
is there.
Pragati,
Yeah.
please mute all.
If I'm sorry, what I was talking about working in the law firm. You see, not necessarily many times in law firm, what you do, you prepare documents, you legal research, doing legal research, preparing legal documents, doing the convincing work, readings work. They are all different areas of the legal profession. Become a litigation lawyer, of course you must get a training in the law firm at the initial stage, but my advice will be, don't stay firm for a very long time, because litigation in itself is a separate area, and if you spend long time in the law firm preparing these documents, probably the kind of articulation which is needed as a litigation lawyer, probably that perfection you will be losing, and it will take a little longer for you than to establish in the litigation. So far as working in the law firm is concerned, yes, there are different areas. People work in different areas. There are some law firms which are working as an NGO, not for profit organization, and they are doing legal research and helping the society in improving the legal system and the laws which are prevalent. There are some who are working only on commercial basis. They are helping the government in drafting laws, various government, state government as well as central government. And there are certain who have expertise in preparation of documents or doing the research on behalf of the government in various areas, where the people from the field of law go and assist the law firm in the particular area where they are working. So there cannot be a hard and fast rule or same criteria for the law firm. It all depends what kind of interest one has. Have interest in litigation. In case you are more comfortable in doing research work, you can join some organization which is going into the research work activity. If you are interested only in drafting laws, then legislative drafting is a separate field. So it all depends on the expertise which you want to develop or the area which you want to pursue because of the interest which you have.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Smriti, who wants to know whether joining in an LPO is a good option, as we don't get much options after working for few years with an LPO.
Yeah, as I said about the law firm, same is true about the LPO also. Because if basically, I mean, I'm sorry to use that word, I should not use that word, because as a law graduate, if you are joining a LPO and you are working there for a long time, then probably all your interest in litigation or the capacity to argue a matter in the court, probably you will lose that. And at the most of the people, those who don't update what they become, most of them, they become just a dignified executives, dignified legal executives or a dignified clerk in a law firm who are simply doing cut and paste and preparing documents. I think that is one thing which should be avoided. And working for a long term in LPO may not be a good proposition.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Komal Rajput. He's done LLB from Delhi University and also completed his MCOM as well, and wants to know, is there any benefit he can get in cyber law as a commerce student, or what barriers he may face if he chooses cyber law as a career?
You see, it all depends on in the area which you have the interest. If you really have the interest in cyber law, obviously first you have to learn the basic principle. Moreover, in addition to knowing what the law has, what are the contents of the law, whatever little you know about the information technology, how much you know about the information technology itself, how much interest you have in the subject of information technology. Now, I think a person with a science background or with IT background and law background will be a better option going for cyber law expertise. But if a person with MCOM, if he is not very comfortable with the technological principle, then probably he will have to devote little more time in learning the tricks of the technology in addition to knowing about the law. So I think it all depends individual's aptitude, how much is the aptitude and how much he want to learn about the information technology in addition to law. And the kind of temperament, I think it should not be a barrier of knowledge about information technology. You have to learn it. If you learn it, probably you can become an expert.
Thank you, sir. Next is an interesting question from Anirudh Tyagi, who wants to know what is the relationship between law and civil services.
Law has got, law is important in every field. And so far as civil servants are concerned, I think for thing which they have, even a person who qualifies a civil service examination and goes for training before he is giving an assignment, he is given lessons in law. Because as a civil servant, what exactly you do? You only administer the law. In addition to making the law, as a civil servant, you make the laws, you make rules and regulations, supplementing the law passed by the parliament. At the same time, you implement these laws. And since your job is to implement the law, definitely having full knowledge about the law for a civil servant is very important aspect. Now, I tell you, during my service, young officers who were joining, IAS officers who were joining my ministry, my advice to them always has been, because you have got a posting in Delhi, and if you have already not done law, in Delhi you have many opportunities, why don't you go and join law? Because in Delhi you have an advantage of pursuing a law course in the evening, which is evening classes are held in the evening, but it is a full-time course. So you can go and join that course. And many of them have joined law, and they came back to me and said, sir, you have given us a very good advice. And now we feel that we are in a better position to discharge our duties as a civil servant, because now we are more confident about the legal provisions when we also know that find out which provision of law which can be applied to a particular situation. So there is definitely a very good correlation between civil services and the law, and a civil servant who has studied law will definitely prove to be a better civil servant as compared to a person who doesn't have a formal degree of.
Thank you, sir. The next question comes from Dr. Arti Yadav. He wants to know why or whether law teachers should be allowed to practice.
I think this is a very important question and a difficult
sir.
question to answer, because a decision on this aspect is to be taken by the Bar Council of India under the Advocates Act, because Advocate Act says that lawyer's profession is a full-time job, and in case you accept an employment, then you cannot practice law. I think this is what the problem is. If you are a teacher, if you are on a full-time employment, then you cannot practice law. But as a practitioner, if on part-time basis you are going and teaching law or sharing your knowledge of law with the students, there is no bar on that. But teachers should be allowed to practice law as a regular course. I think the Advocates Act is creating a problem, and probably Bar Council of India is not inclined to allow this. And there is a reason for that. Once you allow teachers to join practice on full-time basis, probably kind of attention and devotion which is required for a teacher towards a student in the university will not be available, and probably the teaching will suffer. You know, in most of the colleges, I talk, there are more than 1,600 law colleges, universities, or institutes. There is a dearth of good teachers. There is a dearth of good teachers who can really teach their students well. And if you permit them to practice law in the courts, probably their attention will be divided and they won't be able to do full justice to the students or to the courses of law. But obviously, a call on this regard is to be taken by the Bar Council of India. And maybe tomorrow a situation comes where you permit them on certain conditions and for certain limited time. Probably that may be possible. But as on today, I think there is difficulty.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Pranjal. He wants to know what ways quality of litigation can be improved.
Yes, I think this is again a very important question has been raised. I think the quality of litigation is suffering because of two reasons. Number one, the drafting of plea before the courts. Probably there is a lacuna in the drafting. In addition to lacuna in the drafting, because many a time petitions are filed at a short notice, or probably the advocate who is drafting the petition is not fully well versed with the rule position of a particular court, and therefore the judge doesn't get all the facts before him in the way which enable him to render justice, keeping in view the full facts and the legal position of the case. So I think this is a kind of skill which one has to develop so that the litigation doesn't suffer because of poor drafting.
Sir, the last question is from Rishabh Pratap. He wants to know, according to you, what is the importance of mooting in law students' life, and what's the key to develop confidence for mooting?
I think this is another question, very important question, and I think mooting has become very important in the study of law, because I remember when I passed out law way back in 1976 from Delhi University, this mooting system was not there. And all those students who were passing law and going to the courts were totally at sea, because whatever law they have studied in the college and whatever was happening in the court on day-to-day basis, there was no match between the two, because whatever is taught to you in the law college, in the law class, is useful to you most of the time of arguing a case. But before arguing a case, you have to draft a petition, you have to see that all the procedural requirements are met, how they are meeting the procedure requirement, how adjournment is to be sought, how many times you can seek the adjournment. All these things must be taught in the law college itself, which was not the practice when we studied law. But today, through mooting, I think all these things are taught to the students, and even in the art of argumentation also, because moot is generally supervised and monitored by the people who are practicing or who are senior teachers, or many a time come to see how the moot court is functioning, and they guide the students as to how they should practice. So I think they make them a good advocate, they make them a good lawyer, and definitely mooting has become a very important. But only thing is, what I find is in many mooting competitions where I have participated, I think moot problem should be such which is very easy for the students to comprehend, and the kind of procedural aspects which they are supposed to come across, they are highlighted and they come familiar with these procedural aspects also, in addition to developing their argumentative skill. So I think it's good. And now with this, after COVID-19, one of the questions earlier was also there. I think mooting also now has to take place through ODR only.
Thank you so much, sir, for your responses. Now I'll request my colleague Anu to give vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I had a good interaction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Pradeep ji, for affording me this opportunity to have interaction with the participants in this very good webinar. And thanks to the Sharda University for organizing it for the benefit of the students and those who are likely to join profession in the near future. My best wishes to all of them.
Thank you, sir. It was very comprehensive.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anu Singh, Assistant Professor. It's an honor to propose the vote of thanks. I, on behalf of School of Law, would like to thank Shri P.K. Malhotra, sir. It was indeed a very enlightening session. As placement coordinator, I think Lipika ma'am and I get this question the most as to what to do after law and to how to narrow down the options. Sir has guided the students in a very comprehensive and effective manner. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for taking out time out of your busy schedule and answering the questions put up by the students. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.